What's going on YouTube? It's your boy Cam ATL. Shout out to the DFS squad. Shout out to everybody watching this video right now. Drop a like down below because I already know you're gonna love it. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and make sure you comment anything down in the comment section and enter your name into the $50 giveaway that I do every single week on this channel. Thank you guys for joining me as always. Greenlightdfs.com to join the squad. Now in this video, as normal, you guys know in the beginning of the week, Tuesday mornings, I drop a video where we do the first look lineup, where I just give my gut calls, we go through real quick, set the lineup together, and I don't really talk too much about other players on the slate, all right? Now in this video, this is the final look video where I'm going to go more in depth and we're going to talk about way more players than we did in the first look, kind of get a bit of a better overview on this week 6 slate so that we can go in and kill it on Sunday, all right? Let's get straight into it, guys. As normal, it's going to be about a 25-minute video, so lay back, relax, and let's get it. Starting off at quarterback, a quarterback that I'm really interested in the most this week is Matt Ryan. All right, Matt Ryan at 6'4". He's in the first look lineup. It's going against an Arizona secondary that, gave up over 33 Draftkings points to Lamar Jackson week 2, over 31 to Matthew Stafford week 1, gave up over 25 to rookie Kyle Allen week 3. This is an amazing spot. The lowest they've ever allowed this season so far was week 4 against Russell Wilson, 14.3 Draftkings points. All right, that's the lowest that they've done this entire season. Andy Dalton last week went for over 18 Draftkings points. Matt Ryan's in an amazing position. I'm on Matt Ryan even if Julio ends up out. Obviously, my love for him drops a little bit because that's a huge target if Julio ends up out. But honestly, right now, Julio, we know, is dealing with a bit of a hip issue, but it looks like he practiced in a limited fashion yesterday. So I'm pretty sure he's going to be good to go. So Julio will be on the field, so it's all good. I think Julio will be playing as normal. He's probably still going to be dealing with a little bit of soreness and a little bit of an issue, but Julio, even with a little bit off of his game, is an amazing receiver and a great target for Matt Ryan, as well as Ridley and Sanu, who he also has on this offense. And let's not forget Austin Hooper as well. There's so many targets for Matt Ryan here. He's just an amazing option at 6'4". He is one of my favorite price-included quarterbacks on this slate. All right, now let's talk about the guy on the other side, Kyler Murray at 6'5". Kyler finally stepped it up last game and finally got some rushing yards going. He almost rushed for 100 rushing yards last week, 93 rushing yards last week. All right? He threw for 253 yards and rushed for 93. Okay? He got 1 rushing touchdown, 0 passing touchdowns, but still at the end of the day, his lowest score of the season was 17 against Seattle week 4. He's had a few solid performances, 25 against Detroit, 25 against Cincinnati, and now he's going against probably one of the better secondaries that one of the worst, better matchups when it comes to quarterbacks that he's played all year. We saw what Deshaun Watson just did last week. Am I saying Kyler Murray is as good as Watson? No. But at the same time, Kyler Murray is a guy who can get you rushing yards, some good rushing yards to give him a good floor at the end of the day. He hasn't shown too much upside, but if he can start throwing for 2 to 3 touchdowns and running one every time, he's going to have some really good upside. And I think we might see a few of those this season. And this is a decent spot for him to be able to pull that off. So against Atlanta, it's a solid option. All right. Obviously, at the top of the list, we have Patrick Mahomes going against Houston. I have no issues with Patrick Mahomes. If you have the money left over, let's say David Johnson ends up out and Chase Edmunds is a lock pretty much at running back in the 4K range. Okay? That's a huge savings. You will probably have a ton of money. Okay? So I can understand some merit behind playing Patrick Mahomes because we know the type of upside the dude has. Okay, the last 2 games he's gotten 21 Draftkings points, and that's with him missing some serious targets and him having a bit of an ankle issue. All right, now he's going against a Houston defense that just allowed Matt Ryan to almost throw for 36 Draftkings points. Matt Ryan. Mahomes is on another level from Matt Ryan, and Mahomes is also most likely getting Tyreek Hill back. Now, like I said in the first look video, we don't know 100% how much Tyreek's going to be on the field, but that's still a big play guy on this offense coming back from Mahomes. I think Mahomes' ankle will be perfectly fine. He practiced fully on Wednesday, so don't worry too much about that. They are at home in Kansas City. Love Patrick Mahomes, and like I said, if you have money left over, go ahead. I can't fault you on it. All right? Now, last week, this dude won me a shit ton of money. Deshaun Watson is still an amazing play against Kansas City. He is 6'7", which is only 300 more than Matt Ryan. So another reason why I'm okay with Deshaun Watson. He's had kind of a up and down roller coaster type of year this year. 31 week 1, 12 week 2, 29 week 3, 12 week 4, and then 44 last week when we played him against Atlanta. All right, now he's going against Kansas City. It's another solid matchup. Matthew Stafford got over 24 DraftKings points against them. All right, Watson could easily do well here in this matchup, so of course he is fine at 6'7". All right, some other guys that I want to mention. Lamar Jackson going against Cincinnati is a very solid matchup. Kyler Murray rushed for 93 rushing yards against the Cincinnati defense and got over 25 DraftKings points. Lamar Jackson is a rushing savant. All right, this dude is a beast on the ground. He could easily rush for 100 yards, throw a bunch of touchdowns, and have one of those type of performances like he did week 1 or week 2 where he gets 36, 33 type of points. I wouldn't be surprised to see him 35 at the end of this. But only question is Cincinnati going to be able to keep this game competitive enough for them not just to give Mark Ingram the ball a shit ton and not really have to worry about running Lamar Jackson into the ground. All right. So Baltimore is at home. That is a bit of a worry for me. Game script possibility for them just to give it a ton to Mark Ingram, who I love this week, going against one of the bottom run defenses in the entire league. But keep in mind, Kyler Murray did just run for 93 rushing yards against this defense, and Lamar Jackson's another animal. Okay. So just keep that in mind. Another guy that I want to talk about that's a little bit of a sneaky option is Gardner Minshew. All right, Gardner Minshew, the rookie. He logged in a limited practice yesterday, which isn't great. He's got a groin strain. He was going a little bit too hard with his woman, and he strained his groin, I guess. And I think he'll end up being okay, to be honest with you. So I'm not worried too crazy about that, but obviously keep an eye on that and make sure he practices. But this dude silently has been pretty damn solid. The worst week he's had since he's came in was a 16 at Denver week 4. He dropped 27 on the low. Like, not many people paid much attention to that because Deshaun Watson went crazy. We had some huge scores in week 5, but Minshew quietly threw for 2 touchdowns, threw for 374 yards. All right, adding on 42 rushing yards. That's the second time this season that he has gotten close to 50 yards. Like in week 2, he rushed for 56 rushing yards. If he can keep running for about 50 yards around that gives you a little rushing floor. You know what I'm saying? So Gardner Minshew is a solid option against this New Orleans defense that Russell Wilson absolutely torched week 3 for over 44. Gardner Minshew is not Russell Wilson, but he could definitely put up 20 to 25 DraftKings points here against New Orleans. I think this game is going to be a bit of a competitive matchup. So Gardner Minshew, I'm not going to fault you for it at $5K. All right. I've done some thinking on Dak Prescott. All right. Now, he had a great week last week against Green Bay. We had him in the first look lineup against week 5. Only issue here is I understand that Sam Darnold is back, and that's good news for Dak, to be honest with you, because there are actually some Jets guys I really, really like this week because Darnold is back. Darnold being back is making a huge difference, should make a huge difference to this Jets offense, okay? You got to understand, like some of these cheap guys like Jamison Crowder, he got ridiculous 17 targets with Darnold earlier on in the year, okay, in one game. All right, so he's getting targeted a ton, as well as Le'Veon Bell having his best games with Darnold in, okay? So at the end of the day, this Jets offense is going to be much better with Darnold. It's going to flow smoother. They're in New York. Dallas just gave up a shit ton of points to Aaron Jones and got whopped by Green Bay. Most of the game, they did make a bit of a comeback, ended up being 24-34. But at the end of the day, obviously they're going to come in really hyped up. They're really needing a win after a few losses. And I think he should play well. So Dak Prescott is fine at 6'2". Would I rather Matt Ryan over him for 200 more? Yes. All right. Who else do I want to talk about real quick? I kind of want to touch on Case Keenum for a second because we have this game. Let me find Case Keenum. Did I overlook him? Where is he? Oh, Case Keenum. Boom. All right. I want to talk about Case Keenum a little bit. Now, he got in a full practice on Wednesday. They're not trying to. I understand they pulled him before. He hasn't made the new coach has not made his decision yet, Bill Callahan, on who's going to be the starting quarterback for this Redskins offense. But it can't be the rookie. He's not ready. It's not going to be Haskins. I would not be surprised to see Case Keenum back in there. And against Miami, anybody against Miami is a great play. And Miami's looked a little bit rejuvenated, actually. Okay, with Rosen behind quarterback, he's actually been able to do a little bit, at least, give him a little bit of life. Both defenses in this team are horrible. So I wouldn't be surprised to see this team be a good fantasy game to have exposure to, because there's a lot of super cheap options in this game. And you can definitely get either side of that game for cheap options. So that's why I wanted to mention Case Keenum. All right. I want to talk about one last guy, and that is, let me pull him up, Kirk Cousins at home going against Philly. Now, this Philly secondary has not been very good this year. They've done okay against the run, but they gave up over 30 to Keenum week 1. Gave up over 25 to Matt Ryan week 2. Gave up over 30 to Aaron Rodgers week 4. I understand that the game plan for Minnesota is a majority run, and I wouldn't be surprised to see a shit ton of running in this out of Dalvin Cook, obviously. But like I said, with this Philly defense being okay against the run, and these wide receivers, Thielen and Diggs, being so pissed off and voicing their issues with this squad so much, I wouldn't be surprised to see Cousins keep slinging it. We saw last week he had the best day of the entire season, finally getting over 300 passing yards, throwing for 2 touchdowns. So that's a very good sign. It was against the Giants. But at the end of the day, this Philly secondary is not very good. And Kirk Cousins looks like he wants to get his receivers involved a little bit more. I mean, this offense in general wants to get Thielen and Diggs involved a little more. So I'm okay with Kirk Cousins and GPPs, okay? All right, let's talk about running backs, because those are pretty much all the guys I'm really worried about at the quarterback position. All right, now a running back. I understand I talked about this guy a little bit last week, but Le'Veon Bell going against Dallas. All right, now Aaron Jones just absolutely annihilated them, and the squad had him in our lineups. Week 5, okay? But, all right, Dallas is not that bad against the run, okay? They did give up over 52 Draftkings points to Aaron Jones, but Jones was just on his A game 100%. They were without Devontae Adams, so that added his usage, obviously, which is why I had him in the lineup, okay? Devontae Adams being out adds a whole bunch of usage, and they ended up giving majority of it to Aaron Jones, who really went crazy against this Dallas defense. All right. Now, the main reason I like Le'Veon Bell, though, is he's only 6'4". We know the talent level for Le'Veon Bell. Now, with Sam Darnold back, he's going to go back to the over 20 DraftKings points range for as on average. Okay, Darnold's able to move the ball more. He makes the defense focus a little more on the pass game than the other quarterback did, than Falk. So that's going to open up the run a lot more. So I can see Le'Veon Bell having a very solid game here, and I'm expecting about 20 to I'd say, I'm going to guess 23 to 25 DraftKings points around there, and he has the potential for higher. All right, at home in New York with his quarterback back. Like I said, Le'Veon he's like 3rd in the entire league in usage on his team. I mean, he's on the field for about 96%, a little bit over 96% of the time. Okay, that's a ton. Okay, that's up to McCaffrey's like 98. So Le'Veon's right there. Okay, so Le'Veon Bell's, his usage is so crazy, and at 6'4", I love Le'Veon Bell. I already talked about this dude in the first look. I love Mark Ingram, man. All right, I love Mark Ingram. Okay, I mean, and you can't fault me for it. He's going against one of the worst rushing defense in the entire league. Okay, the lowest that they've allowed this entire season was Frank Gore. Okay, and I talked about this last week. Frank Gore is really old. I understand that some of you love Matlock. Some of my viewers, you guys love Matlock, and so you know what I'm talking about. You love Little House on the Prairie, probably. But literally, Frank Gore he should not be playing football. No, I'm just kidding. I'm not going to roast him too bad. But, I mean, come on. Frank Gore is a guy. He records Matlock, Little House on the Prairie, and he just, he's old. But at the end of the day, he still went for over 16, almost 17 DraftKings points against the Cincinnati defense. If Frank Gore can get 16, Mark Ingram, who gets some decent carries in this offense, especially with the expected game script that I'm expecting here. I'm expecting him to top the 100-yard mark, and he has the potential for 2 to 3 touchdowns. Like, he could really get a ton of easy little goal line touches and get in there and get a ton of touchdowns and just run up the points against Cincinnati. So I'm fine with Mark Ingram at 6'6". Definitely like him. All right. Some other guys that I'm interested in. Let's go ahead and just keep moving. I'm going to bounce around, as you guys know I always do. Let's take a second to talk about Chris Carson. All right. Chris Carson was limited on Thursday's injury report with a shoulder injury. Okay. Now, but Carson did come out himself and say he felt good and he was close to 100%. So Chris Carson will be fine to go. He's going against a Cleveland defense that just gave up over 30 to Breda in week 5. That Cleveland team looked atrocious. It was horrible. And Russell Wilson, wants to run the points up here. I think Chris Carson is an amazing option at 6,000. Like I said, this dude gets a ton of carries in this offense. He got 27 carries last week. On average, he's going to rush for about 100 rushing yards a game this year. just off the pure volume that they give him in Seattle. So Chris Carson's a great cash game play. I think he's a very solid option at 6,000. All right, why am I going back? I thought I had Chris Carson opened up. My bad. All right, now let's talk about the David Johnson situation. He didn't practice Thursday, and it's not looking very good, okay? He's been working on the sidelines. He hasn't gotten in at all. Now, obviously, I'm recording this Thursday night. It'll be posted for you guys Friday morning. I'm posting this very late, Friday, 10:50, almost 11 o'clock Central, as I'm recording this Thursday night. As of right now, I am very worried about David Johnson. I don't really see a reason why they're going to push him. Okay, he dealt with injury issues last year. This dude is a monster. They definitely want him around for a while, obviously. So why push him, especially when he's still only working on the sidelines? So as of right now, with him not being able to limit a full practice yet, it is a little bit worrisome. Okay, and if David Johnson misses, do not overthink it and not play Chase Edmunds. All right, let's go ahead and put Chase Edmunds on here. All right, Chase Edmunds is 4'6", and he would become the bell cow running back for this Arizona offense, okay? He can catch passes out of the backfield. He had 4 targets last week against the Bengals, okay? He ran 8 times. He got 17 Draftkings points, and that was with David Johnson in. Obviously, David Johnson left for a little bit. He was playing, but he was limited a little bit after he hurt his hip. But at the end of the day, if David Johnson misses, easy peasy lemon squeezy. The worst thing you could do as DFS is overthink yourself. I've done it a million times. Trust me when I tell you, Chase Edmunds is a lock at 4'6" against this bad Arizona defense if David Johnson is in fact out. All right, so pay attention to that 100%. All right, now let's go ahead and look at what else we got. Now there's a few other guys that I'm interested in that I want to mention. Man, oh man, Phillip Lindsey. All right, last week, he had another game like he did week 3. Week 3, he got 29 DraftKings points. Week 5, he got 27. His lowest this year is 7. Okay, now at the end of the day, he's going to get you about 15 carries. Okay, that's what you're going to get out of Phillip Lindsey most of the time. All right, but keep in mind that he's been very efficient with his touches this year. He got 15 carries week 5, ran for 114 rushing yards and a touchdown. On top of that, he got targets in the pass game. We all know how quick this dude is, and they definitely want to use him in the pass game because if he gets any little room, he can dart and leave him. Okay, Phillip Lindsey is a very interesting option on DK because he's 5'3". It's full point PPR, so I'm very interested in Phillip Lindsey. This Tennessee defense isn't worrying me too much. They've done an okay job against running backs this year, holding Chubb to 11 week 1, holding Marlon Mack to 8 week 2, but they did show a little bit signs of weakness, giving Devontae Freeman 18 week 4. Okay, so Phillip Lindsey is an interesting option. Like I said, they move him around, they throw the ball to him, and he's just been super efficient with his touches that he gets, and he's at home in Denver this week. All right, so Phillip Lindsey is a solid option at 5'3". I just wanted to mention him. All right, let's talk about a few more guys. Obviously, I mentioned Dalvin Cook in the first look. I don't think it's 100% necessary to really go Dalvin Cook this week unless you just have the money. Honestly, if you have the money, and maybe you have maybe in GPP pair up, instead of using it on Dalvin Cook, put Mahomes with like Travis Kelce or something. You know what I'm saying? To be different. But Dalvin Cook is solid to spend the money on if you want to. He's just been super, super solid this year, man. Super solid. I'm hoping he's low owned, to be honest with you, in GPPs. I wouldn't be surprised to see him lower owned than you would think against this Philly defense. Now, I understand their run D has been decent. Aaron Jones dropped over almost 18 DraftKings points against him week 4. Le'Veon Bell was only able to get about 16 DraftKings points against him week 5. But this is Dalvin Cook, okay? He gets a whole nother level of production in this Minnesota offense, okay? They're at home in Minnesota. All right, he's going to get right around 20 carries, and he's going to get over 100 rushing yards. Question is, how many touchdowns is he going to get? Okay, the other great thing about Dalvin Cook that I've really been enjoying is his targets in the pass game. He's gotten some really good targets in the pass game. His lowest performance this season was 19. Other than that, 29, 31, 27, 29. That's just crazy production, man. And he's a super, super safe, solid floor guy at 8-4. All right. That's about it for running backs. Let me see if I missed anybody. I do want to talk a little bit about, let me find him for you. Nick Chubb. They have been getting him some good touches in this offense. He absolutely exploded week 4, 20 carries, 165 yards, and 3 touchdowns. They had a down week last week, but he still almost hit 100 yards. He got 87 rushing yards last week. Now he's going against the Seattle defense that gave up over 37 to Alvin Kamara week 3, over 21 to David Johnson, and over 19 to Todd Gurley week 5. And this isn't 100% Todd Gurley getting his usual carries. This is limited-ish Todd Gurley. Nick Chubb could have a big game here, and I know that Cleveland's going to be very motivated to try to have a good game here in this one. Expect Nick Chubb to get a lot of run in it. And, so Nick Chubb's fine. All right, now let's go ahead. I got to mention the guys in this Washington-Miami game because I would feel like I was shorting you if I didn't. All right, let me go ahead and get I keep going over people. Where is he? All right, let me just type his name in. Kenyan Drake against Washington. Now, this is not safe by no means, and this is not a cash game play, okay? But Kenyan Drake showed some huge potential last season, all right? Like last season, he had multiple games over 20 DraftKings points. Week 5 last season against Cincinnati, he got 24 DraftKings points. Week 8 at Houston, he got 23. Week 12 at the Colts, he got 26. He has upside. They're just not able to get him enough touches because they're falling behind so early that they're not able to really utilize these guys too much, okay? He did get 5 targets in the pass game last week. He's getting good targets in the pass game, all right? I mean, 3 targets week 1 is not that great, but then it went up to 6, and 5 the last 3 weeks, okay? He's been getting some good targets. They had their bye week. They're coming back week 6. So I think that they're going to come back wanting to get this team going a little bit at least. And Kenyan Drake's a guy they really got to get involved. I mean, this is a Washington defense that gave up over 23 to Zeke, over 28 to Wayne Gallman, and over 21 to Sonny Michel. So Kenyan Drake has the potential to have a huge game at 4-4. So in GPP, I love him, but remember that I'm going to repeat this again. He's not safe. Okay, at wide receiver, we're going to pick it up a little bit because I feel like I've been going forever on you guys. All right, we're just going to talk about the guys I like. DeAndre Hopkins going against Kansas City. He's going to see a lot of Bashaud Breeland. So far this year, Kenny Golladay got over 23 DraftKings points week 4 against this Kansas City secondary. DeAndre Hopkins hasn't had, other than week 1, where he got 13 targets, he ended up with 34 DraftKings points week 1. Outside of that, 9, 12, 8, and 15. Now, that alone, the last 4 weeks might keep people off of DeAndre Hopkins, okay? At least the stupid people who just go off performance from this year and don't consider who this dude is, all right? This guy's an absolute monster, and I'm praying that he's low on because this matchup against Kansas City is a great one, especially when Kansas City's going to be scoring, especially at home in Kansas City. DeAndre Hopkins should get a ton of targets in this one, and I'm expecting a huge bounce-back performance after the last 4 weeks being down weeks, all right? Expect DeAndre Hopkins to go crazy, all right? Another guy that I want to talk about, I know I'm going up and down, but I don't have these guys down in order that I've been thinking about. Michael Gallup is a very interesting option, okay? He's played in 3 games this season so far. He played week 1, got 25 DraftKings points. He had 7 targets, 158 reception yards. He played week 2. He got 8 targets, 68 reception yards. Week 5, 14 targets, 7 receptions, 113 yards, and a touchdown. Okay, it is obvious they are trying to get Michael Gallup some run in this Dallas on this Dallas team. And like I said, who knows? Maybe with Darnold back, this Jets team's able to keep this somewhat competitive at home in New York. And Gallup has another amazing day. I wouldn't be surprised to see it. At 5'6", Michael Gallup is a solid option. All right? Now, another reason why Gallup is a very solid option is because Amari Cooper's a little banged up. He put in a limited practice yesterday. So he's a little banged up. Even if he's probably going to play, I wouldn't be surprised. But that ankle issue is still bothering him. It's noticeable, it's obvious, and that's why Gallup is having such success right now. All right, so Michael Gallup's the guy I prefer, but Amari Cooper's fine in GPPs because people might sleep on him a little bit and be leaning towards Gallup. So instead of Gallup, maybe Cooper and GPPs would be the smooth way to go. All right. Now, a guy I really love, man, Cooper Kupp this week against San Francisco. All right, this is a San Francisco squad that gave up over 24 to John Ross week 2, over almost 15 to Johnson week 3. I mean, man, okay, Cooper Kupp in general has been one of the best receivers in the entire league, and people just really don't talk too much about him. Okay, he's kind of under the radar. The amount of targets this guy is getting is DeAndre Hopkins like. Remember last year, DeAndre Hopkins was getting like 15 to 20 targets a game. It was crazy. All right, which is another, I think he's going to get a shit ton of targets again this week, by the way. Anyways, Cooper Kupp is a lock for over 10 targets. We know that. Question is, what's he going to do with it? So far this year, he's proven that he does a lot with it. He catches majority of the targets that's thrown his way, and he has over 100 yards in 4 of the 5 games this season. He also has 4 touchdowns in 5 games this season. Cooper Kupp's an absolute monster. Absolutely love him at 7-1. I can't say anything negative about Cooper Kupp. All right. Another guy that I really like this week that I want to talk about, if I can eventually find him, DJ Chark. All right, DJ Chark is a great option here against Eli Apple. He'll see a lot of Eli Apple, who gave up a ton to Cooper Kupp. 20 DraftKings points week 2. He gave up almost 13 to Kenny Stills week 1. DJ Chark, I mean, he had a huge game. He's had some really good games this season so far. 27 week 1, 18, 17, and 39 last week. All right. The great thing about it is his targets are going up big time. He's obviously one of Minshew's favored targets, okay? Especially if you're going like a Minshew lineup, definitely go Chark with it, okay? Definitely encourage you to do that. We talked about Minshew earlier. I think he's an okay option against New Orleans. And if you do end up going Minshew, you got to get DJ Chark paired up with him. But 11 targets last week, 8 receptions, 164 yards. This dude's got a ton of potential. He also caught 2 touchdowns, by the way. That gives him 5 touchdowns in 5 games. And it's kind of under the radar-ish. All right, wouldn't be surprised if his ownership is, sorry, my brother was calling me. Wouldn't be surprised if his ownership is a bit lower than it should be here against New Orleans in a good matchup. So I like him at 5-5 for sure. All right, now let's talk about Larry Fitzgerald. All right, Larry Fitzgerald going against this Atlanta secondary. I absolutely love it, especially if you're going Kyler Murray. Especially if you're going Kyler Murray. I mean, this is a team that gave up over 20 DraftKings points to Corey Davis, over 20 DraftKings points to Ty Hilton. Larry Fitzgerald is an amazing option. I don't have to explain too much to you, honestly. If you're going Matt Ryan and Julio Jones is a full go, Julio paired with him obviously is a great option. Some other guys that I like, Terry McLaurin at Miami, obviously. We know the type of potential this kid has, okay? He didn't have a great game last week, but that was against New England, and they literally purposely took him away out of the game. They do it all the time, all right? This dude had 26, 17, and 19 the first 3 weeks of the season. He missed week 4, and then he came back against a tough New England defense who purposely took him out of the game. Expect him to bounce back in a big way in an amazing matchup against Miami that gave up over almost 27 DraftKings points to Amari Cooper in week 3. So Terry McLaurin's an amazing option. Like I said, this game has a ton of cheap value to play. McLaurin's 6,000, so it's not super cheap, but I do like Terry McLaurin. All right. Another guy I want to mention is D.D. Westbrook, another guy that our boy Minshew enjoys. 11 targets last week. All right, so D.D. and Chark are solid pairings with Minshew in GPP. So I do like D.D. Westbrook. Another guy that I like, let me go ahead and go down here to him, Mohamed Sanu as a possible pairing with Matt Ryan. This dude has 13, 18, 15 the last 3 weeks. He's been doing a very solid job week in, week out. He's just super, super consistent. Outside of against Philly week 2, he only got 5. Outside of that, he's got over 10 DraftKings points in every week this season. He's only 4-5 and a great option against this bad Arizona secondary that's very beat up without Patrick Peterson. All right, now, who else do I want to mention? I'm not all over Will Fuller like I was last week. Last week, he absolutely blew up. I'm not chasing those points this week. Even though it's a decent matchup, I am not chasing those points. I prefer DeAndre Hopkins. All right, I'm just going to keep it real with you. Outside of that, there are a few other guys that I'm interested in. Emmanuel Sanders is a solid option. He just gets so many targets in that pass game. Outside of that, though, Cortland Sutton as well. Cortland Sutton's another Denver receiver that's been getting a ton of targets, and he's been playing very, very solid this season so far. He will be seeing a lot of Malcolm Butler, who's a solid cornerback, but, he's still getting some solid targets, so Sutton's a solid option at only 5,000. All right, let's move on to tight end, because like I said, I've been doing this for like an hour now. All right, we're going to run through this. Now, Austin Hooper, boom. At 5,000 for Atlanta, especially if you have Matt Ryan. Pair him up with Matt Ryan. He is my favorite pairing with Ryan unless you have the money for Julio. Austin Hooper's an amazing option at 5,000 going against a team that's bottom in the league against tight ends. No need to explain too much. Hooper is my favorite tight end when it comes to price. He's one of my favorite at least. All right, next guy I really, really like that's got some competition with Hooper this week with price included is George Kittle going against the Rams. George Kittle is such a focal point of this San Francisco offense. He got 8 targets last week. He got 10 targets week 1, 8 targets week 3, 8 targets week 5. He did get a low 3 targets week 2, but expect 8 to 10 targets a week. Now going against a Rams team that he absolutely annihilated last season. He got 20 and 32 DraftKings points both games against the Rams last season. They just somehow dominate every time with this dude. He got a touchdown in both games. He got 8 targets the first game, almost 100 yards, 98 reception yards. And then the next time they played the Rams at Los Angeles, which they're going against again, he got a touchdown on 14 targets, 9 catches, and 149 reception yards. George Kittle's an amazing option. I think that Hooper's going to draw more ownership, and I like to be a little different here going Kittle for 200 more. I like George Kittle. All right. Travis Kelce, if you're going Mahomes, that's a fine pairing in GPP. Not many people are going to go Mahomes-Kelce pairing, but I do like Travis Kelce this week. Will Dissly is 4.9. His price jumped up a ton, but this is a Cleveland defense that's been struggling against tight end for years now. So Will Dissly has been getting some targets in this past game, especially in the red zone. He's not a guy I'm really interested in playing this week, but at 4.9 in GPP, I can't fault you for it. It is a decent matchup. All right, Zach Ertz going against Minnesota. This Minnesota defense is solid, but they did give up over 30 DraftKings points to Darren Waller week 3. Zach Ertz is a huge focal point of this Philly offense. Hasn't had a gigantic game yet so far this season, but he did get his first touchdown of the year week 5. So I love Zach Ertz. All right, let's talk about some cheaper options if you want to save at tight end, because I know a lot of people, there are some people in the industry that hate to pay up at tight end. Most of the time I don't either, especially if there's a decent option at tight end. This week, some cheaper options that I'm kind of interested in. Delaney Walker at 3.7 against Denver is a solid option. He hasn't been getting a ton of targets the last few weeks, but at the beginning of the season, you saw his potential, and we know what Delaney Walker's capable of. I would expect a bounce-back performance here at 3.7. And Gerald Everett has been getting a ton of run for this Rams offense. He's been absolutely crushing the last few weeks, so expect to see Gerald Everett involved again as well. Let's talk about defenses. Boom. Last but not least, defenses. Now, the defense that really, really sticks out to me, I talked about him in the first look. I'm not even going to bullshit you. The Jets' defense against Dallas. This might sound crazy, but the Jets are almost free. Okay? Is Dallas going to score points? Hell yeah, they are. But the Jets are at home in New York. This defense has actually been decent. They've had a few games against Cleveland week 2. They got 5. Week 5 against Philly, they got 4. But other than that, against Buffalo, 18. Again, at New England, 16. This is a team that's been causing some turnovers. They've been getting some sacks. They've been getting some picks. I absolutely love the Jets, and no matter how many points they give up, I think they're going to do good enough to hit value at 1.5. Jets are probably the defense I'm going the most this week. It might sound absolutely crazy, but when you misprice a defense like this, I understand that Dallas is not bad enough to play a defense against them normally, but when the defense is 1.5 at home, yes, you can definitely play them. All right, so I love the Jets defense. They're pretty much just a free square. I mean, it's just too cheap. Okay, whatever I get from them, I'm happy. All right, now The Cowboys defense is a decent option against the Jets, but Darnold's back, so no thank you. I will not be playing much of that, but I understand the Jets could have some turnovers. All right. Next up, I really like the Seahawks defense against Cleveland. This Cleveland offensive line did not look good at all last week. Seahawks could really get to them and cause some problems at 3-4. The Titans at Denver is an okay option at 2-9. They're fairly cheap. Another defense that we could consider, let me think. Who else do I want? The Ravens defense against Cincinnati, like I said in the beginning of the week, they lost an offensive lineman, and they were already struggling to keep defensive ends away from the quarterback. So I think the Ravens could definitely get to Cincinnati a ton in this one. I would not be surprised to see that. And outside of that, really, I mean, it's the Jets as the main option, really. I'm going the Jets, okay? I don't care what they give me. The Jets are too cheap at 1.5 and allows way too much in your lineup, okay? And if you're going to spend up, I do like the Ravens. And I can understand some of the other options, but the Jets at 1.5, I mean, that's just free. They're at home in New York. Dallas, I understand, is going to score points. But Jets get one turnover. It's fine. I'll take it. I'll take one pick. Okay, and Dak's been making some mistakes lately. He hasn't been making the best decisions. He made some good decisions last year, didn't turn the ball over too much, but this year he's been turning the ball over. So expect the Jets to get a pick or two and hit value at that 1.5. All right, guys, thank you for joining me as always, man. Good luck, guys. I hope you guys kill it week 6, man. Hit up greenlightdfs.com to join the squad. And do it before Saturday so you can get the college football for Saturday if you live in a state that allows college football. And then obviously you'll get Sunday Showdown, Monday Showdown, all that cool stuff. Thank you guys for joining me as always, man. Drop that like down below, subscribe to the channel, and let's get this money.